Welcome back to Straight Talk. I'm Laurel Porter. We have some new information on homelessness in Portland and Multnomah County. A new report looks at how many people are living on the streets, and the report gives reason for hope that the city and county are making progress. Here to tell us more about the numbers and what they mean, welcome to my guest, Multnomah County Chairwoman Deborah Kafoury. Welcome back to Straight Talk. It's nice to have you here.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
So tell us more about what this point in time count is and how it's conducted.
Well, it's a federal requirement, and all the communities around our entire country do it, and it comes every 2 years. We're actually going to be starting to do it annually so we can get a more accurate understanding of what's happening in our community. But we count how many people are sleeping outdoors or in shelters on any one given night.
And this was on February 24th that volunteers went out?
Right. Usually we do it at the end of January, but because of the severe weather, we thought it would skew our results, and we really want to have consistent results from year to year so we can do comparisons. And we have over 300 volunteers that span the county. People are always saying, well, how do you do it? Well, we actually have people who walk through Forest Park. We have people out in Thousand Acres in East County, people who are folks who work with the homeless community, so they know where people are camping, they know where people are living, they know where to find people.
Let's take a look at what the count shows. The total count in the point in time homeless count from February 24th showed 4,177 total homeless people either outdoors or in shelters. That represents a 10% increase from the last count. Of that total, 2,509 were in shelters or transitional housing. That was a 31% increase. And of the total, 1,668 were sleeping outdoors or in cars, and that's an 11.6% decrease since 2015. So, Chair Kafoury, that represents the numbers are up overall, but the number of people outdoors, people on the streets, is down. How do you explain that?
Well, it actually was part of our plan, and when we came together 2 years ago to form our Home for Everyone coalition, we targeted getting one of the areas of need was to have more shelter capacity in our community. So over the last year, we've expanded 600 shelter beds, which is double the amount that we had prior. And so this is actually a bright spot in our count, is that there are more people sleeping in shelter than sleeping on the streets for the first time.
And you focus specifically on particular groups. Tell us about that.
Yes, we have this. It's a very targeted plan. I don't think a lot of people understand the technicalities of it, but we're doing things in an intentional manner. And last year we prioritized women, we prioritized people of color, especially African American men who are disproportionately homeless compared to their numbers in our general community, and then veterans, trying to continue our investment that we made last year into ending homelessness for veterans. So those are the three populations that we really targeted, and we saw that we made effort in those areas.
And the racial disparity, though, still persists, doesn't it?
It does, and it's going to take more work than we could just do in this 1 year, but we're committed to continuing that work because we know it's so important. And it's not just with African American men, it's across almost all of racial and ethnic minorities. Do
you believe the numbers? Because, you know, in wintertime, wouldn't more people go into the shelters and not be out on the streets? And we had a particularly severe winter, even in February. Are you buying those numbers? That's really accurate?
I believe it is. That's why we postponed the count for a month, because we had some shelters that were open just during the really severe winter weather. And we knew that that would skew the results. So we moved it to a time where we had the shelter beds that we have open all year round, or try to have open all year round. So the number of shelter beds is capped. We're working to get new beds open, but we know that the numbers are, I think, as good as we can possibly get them.
Why do they do it in the winter, not the summertime?
That's a really good question. People ask that all the time. I don't know. It's federally mandated, so it's something that all the communities around the country do at the same time.
And speaking of summertime, we are having extreme heat this weekend, and the county has opened some cooling centers. Tell us about that.
We're really worried about our elderly neighbors, our disabled neighbors, and people who don't have air conditioning. I don't have air conditioning. And so we have sites open around the county, public buildings that people can come to and spend the day where there's air conditioning and keep cool. It's really important not just for people to visit those cooling centers, it's important for those of us who are mobile to check in on our elderly neighbors and our disabled neighbors to see that they're doing okay.
And we have a link to those cooling centers if you want to find where they are on kgw.com. Just look under news link. I read in the report that all of Oregon is really experiencing an increase in homelessness, especially Central Oregon, where they saw a 31% increase, and especially alarming was the high number of homeless children living outside. That's not as big a problem in Multnomah County. Have you put a real focus on that area?
We have. When I started at the county, one of the most horrific sights that I saw was when I went into our shelter and saw a crib. And the thought of, being a mother, the thought of a baby and a family sleeping in a shelter just really hit me in the heart. But even worse, I thought, was the families that are sleeping in their cars. So we instituted a policy, we called it a no turn away policy. So if you're a family in Multnomah County and you're experiencing homelessness, you will have a place to stay. We have a shelter in East Portland, but we also have a network of churches that will open their doors and let families stay. And it really has kept a lot of families safe. It's kept a lot of families off the streets, but other communities don't have this same ability. And so I feel it's our job not just to help our own community, but to try to help other counties build the kind of networks and establishments that we have here.
The shelters are temporary. What kind of progress is the city and county making in finding permanent housing?
Thank you for asking that question. I think so often we talk about shelter, and shelter is not the answer to homelessness. Housing is. And that's one of the important pieces of our plan. It's really a three-part plan. We talk about shelter mostly, but we also do housing, homelessness prevention, to keep people from becoming homeless in the first place, and then housing placement. And we saw last year that we had placed 4,600 people into permanent housing after they'd been homeless. And that was a 55% increase over the prior year. So really good news on that front. This year we're on track to beat that number, and our goal is to house 5,000 people. Which is very challenging considering the cost of housing. It has been a real challenge, and that's why our original goals that we set out, we haven't, in some areas we haven't ended homelessness yet, but we've had this backdrop of stagnant wages and rapidly increasing rents. And so we've had a bigger and bigger challenge finding apartments, and then finding apartments that are affordable for people who are making minimum wage. Chair Kafoury, I want to ask you about another topic. This week, 7 longtime leaders in Portland's African-American community sent you a letter, a rather stinging letter of rebuke. They were showing support for Multnomah County Commissioner Loretta Smith. She's been the subject of a county human resources investigation, so I want to read you just part of the letter and get your response. They said, "This unseemly process surrounding unsubstantiated charges and allegations about Commissioner Smith have been the worst sort of political and racist attack, thinly veiled as a human resources investigation. Indeed, it is a modern-day political lynching. We're not going to stand by while one of our best and brightest is maligned." Chair, can you tell us what this is all about and what your response is? Sure, and first I would just like to say that the allegations against me are not true. And this is not about Commissioner Smith's race. This is about 2 women of color who were employed in her office who came to the county and making serious allegations that she had mistreated her staff and misused county funds. The county has an obligation, it's in our county rules, that we will investigate these types of matters. And Oregon public records law says that these allegations and these investigations are public. And because she didn't want them to be released. Right, and I think that was the really disappointing part to me, was that, first of all, she called for an investigation to clear her name, but then on the other side, she tried to sue me and the county to make sure that those records wouldn't become public. And the outside investigation concluded Commissioner Smith likely bullied staffers on cultural issues, and that it was assumed staffers would use vacation time to work campaign events. What is happening as a result of that conclusion? Well, what I want to reiterate to people is that this is not changing what's happening at Multnomah County, the way that we treat our employees and the way that we treat the public. It has long been a strong tenet of mine to work to reduce racial and ethnic disparities in our community. And Multnomah County has a strong commitment. We've prioritized people of color and their needs. We've changed the way we do contracting. We've changed the way we've procured services. We've changed the way we've provided services. We know we still have a lot of work to do, but I'm committed to ensuring that everyone in our community has the same opportunities.
Only about 15 seconds, but how is this affecting how the commission works together? A lot has been made about the all-women, minority-majority commission. Right. How is this affecting the atmosphere in only about 15 seconds?
We have an amazing commission, all women, majority minority, and we have women who are dedicated to making sure that the work of our county continues, and I have no doubt that that will continue.
Chair Kafoury, thank you for joining us here on Straight Talk.
Thank you.
We also want to thank Senator Merkley for joining us earlier. And thank you for watching. Straight Talk airs twice a weekend, 4:30 on Saturdays and 6:30 on Sundays. We'll see you next week for Straight Talk.